Hi, welcome to Bipolar Boxing Picks. This is Nick. We just got done watching UFC 285, John Jones versus Cyril Gane. This was a great card, top to bottom. I'm just going to do all the main fights on the card, let you know what I thought. But this card, it had everything on it. You had three really good prospects on here, young prospects, and they all looked great. They all came through with wins. You had the greatest fighter in the sport's history, John Jones, just make it look easy against Cyril Gane. And you had Alexa Grasso getting the biggest upset of this year, next year, and probably a few years to come. So this was just an all-out great card. Like I said, it had everything. But just starting at the top with John Jones and Cyril Gane. Guys, why didn't we see this one coming? I mean, this was easy. A first round submission by John Jones, 2-3 minutes into the fight. I picked John Jones to win. I mean, I did very well on this card. I went 13-1, and you can guess who the loss was. But so I had John Jones winning, but I just thought there'd be some ring rust there. He'd want to work off, feel Gagne out before you got the takedown in. He said before this fight was not going to be competitive. It was just going to be an absolute wash, and he was correct. And he took Gagne down very easily. And it was just very easy. When he got him down, it was very easy to submit him as well. I mean, the fact that, like, some of the unknowns, like one of the unknowns was like, well, how's John Jones going to do against a guy who's 260 pounds? He's going to do real freaking good against him if he's 260 pounds and he can't get up off his ass when he's on the ground against an athlete like John Jones. So the fact that he was 260 pounds was actually worse for him, because as soon as he got taken down, you can't get that 260 pounds up. Not a guy like John Jones, who's just an A-level wrestler, as high wrestling caliber as you can get. I mean, all those unknowns that we were thinking about before the fight, I should have just threw those right out of my head and just said, like, come on, dude, like, path of least resistance here. John Jones is going to have a very easy takedown. I would have been very surprised if Gane would have knocked John Jones out. I would have been very surprised if that would have happened. So, man, like I said, hindsight's 2020, but man, we should have seen this one coming. And it just looks like if this fight happens 10 times, that happens 9 times. And the other time, he just waits to the second round to submit him. So, a great performance by the GOAT right there. And that's why he's the greatest of all time right there. And he's kind of lucky, to be honest, getting thrown in this. This is a kind of a poor era of heavyweights right here, and in my opinion, it might be the worst era ever in the UFC's existence of heavyweights. However far you want to go back, I mean, there's not a worse heavyweight roster in any year in the UFC heavyweight division, I don't think, than this is. Because after that, I mean, you can include, now that John Jones is there, you can include him, which shakes things up. You can include Stipe Miocic, but it's where he is at this part in his career. And but other than that, I mean, Sergey Pavlovich is the other guy, and Curtis Blades is the other top guy. There's your top four right there. Other than that, you're starting to go with like Tai Tuivasa, Jairzinho Rosenstrike. Obviously, that bum Derek Lewis is always in the mix. Just, where do you go from here with the UFC heavyweight division? I hope to see Jones fight all three. Miocic, I guess that's what they're setting up next. So I'd love to see Miocic. I think he beats Miocic. I would love to see him fight Pavlovich. Pavlovich deserves that fight. And then I would like to see him fight Curtis Blades. That would be my dream run for him in the heavyweight division. But I think they have John Jones for, I want to say, 8 fights he signed for. Where are you going to snag out 8 fights from in the UFC heavyweight division? They don't have any young guys coming up. That Dalkas guy was supposed to be the young up-and-comer, but I think he got smoked in one of his last fights. So you don't got him really. I mean, I don't know what you're going to do after that. And that's if everything goes perfect and those guys don't lose in between there, especially Curtis Blades. If he loses, you got to push him back even further. But I don't know what you're going to do in that heavyweight division. I just think John Jones is going to run through everybody. The toughest fight, though, I think, including Stipe, would be Curtis Blades, and that's just because of Curtis Blades' wrestling. That's the only reason. But Curtis Blades, with that size of his and his wrestling's not better than John Jones. I'm not saying that, but he's got great wrestling and he's so big. So that could pose a threat. That's going to pose the biggest threat to John Jones, in my opinion. So, yep. After that, we got Alexa Grasso versus Valentina Shevchenko. Shevchenko was winning the whole fight, and she made one stupid mistake. I got to go back and watch this fight because I just don't remember the transition of how Grasso got her back. For some reason, I looked away for a second or whatever, but I just missed that part of the fight. Kind of when I turned back, I was like, she's got her back, but Shevchenko will get out of this, and then she'll just dance around for the whole 5th round, and we'll win 3 rounds to 2. That didn't happen. In the 4th round, and the round that she was winning the whole fight, she chose not to stay on her feet, and she got submitted. That was my only loss on the card, but what are you gonna do? It's. I'm not trying to take away anything from Alexa Grasso, but this is a fluke fight. It's just like Leon Edwards versus Kamaru Usman. Like the right fighter will win in the rematch. This just happens. This is MMA. There's so many different ways to win, but I just wish Valentina Shevchenko would have just stood up for the rest of the fight and won an easy decision. Just Alexa Grasso has a much better chance of finishing you on the ground than she does on the feet. So in a play it safe, this is a play it safe sport. Like you can't play around in this sport. You can't just say like, well, I'm Shevchenko and I dominate everybody. I want to show people I can submit people on the ground. You don't need to do that. You just need to stand up and win a 5-round decision is what you need to do. And when you don't, things like this happen. But I don't see Shevchenko as any less of a fighter after this fight. I see her as just as good as she was before she came into the fight, and I think she'll dominate in the rematch. I didn't see the post-fight interview because I was so surprised when this fight ended. I just didn't pay attention to it, but so I don't know if they're doing a rematch, but I'm assuming that that's what they're going to do. And Shevchenko should win it pretty easily. She was a 10-1 favorite in this, so it'll probably still be like a 7-1 favorite in the next one, and I think she'll win pretty easy. But shout out to Alexa Grasso for taking advantage of that opportunity. I mean, I don't think she's that great of a fighter, but she just put together a decent 4-fight win streak. I think the best fighter on that win streak might have been Joanne Calderwood. She gets a shot at the title, takes advantage, wins it. Great for her. And next fight, like this is one of my favorite prospects here, Shavkat Rakhmonov beating Jeff Neal. It was a standing rear naked choke at the end of the 3rd round. Now, Shavkat was winning the whole fight, and he would have won a decision easily. And that's what I actually predicted was a decision, 3 rounds to none. And that's what he was on his way to doing. But he got that weird standing submission. And he was outpointing Jeff Neal, but this was it wasn't very competitive, but it was way more competitive than I thought it would be. And Jeff Neal does have some really good striking, and he showed it in this fight. And Rakhmonov has, he's usually very powerful. He knocks dudes out, and Neal was hanging in there. Neal took some real sharp elbows from him. Rakhmonov throws those lead elbows, and he would throw like an elbow combination where he'd throw 2 or 3 elbows in there without throwing a punch in between. It was just very weird to see, but that just lets you know how top level this guy is, that he's leading with elbows and stuff like that. That shows you have high level striking and you're very confident in it, and you're landing them, on a guy like Jeff Neal. But Jeff Neal cracked him a few times, and Neal was landing some clean strikes in there. So this is what I like to see from prospects. Is I like to see them tested early on in their career. They have plenty of time to perfect their craft, but I'd like them to learn. And this is a fight where you learn stuff from. So guys like, we'll get to the Bo Nickel fight, but like Bo Nickel didn't learn anything from it. We didn't learn anything from him, I'll say. But I would, what do you learn? What do you possibly learn from taking a guy down? I know Jones did the same thing, but that's different. That's for a title fight and whatever. But when you're this early in your career, like what do you learn about, taking Jamie Pickett down in a minute and a half and just submitting him, even though that's what I predicted, a first round submission in the first 3 minutes. But you don't learn anything from that. So unless you're planning on just getting by with that for a long time, which he could do, we might as well just go down to the Bo Nickel fight now. But Bo Nickel could do that. He could just go his whole career pretty much. He could just get by with his wrestling. He's that freaking good with his wrestling, I believe. But eventually, you're going to have to show your striking somehow. Eventually, you're going to get some rounds. Why wouldn't you want to at least get some rounds in here against a guy like Jamie Pickett? You're never going to fight a guy like Jamie Pickett for the rest of your career. You're never going to fight somebody that bad. That guy needs to be off the roster, but he's on the roster so he can just fight guys like you, and you can kind of do whatever you want with him. But I think he should have just, this is a devil's advocate thing. This is just what I prefer, but I wish he would have found some way to get tested somehow. Stand up a little bit with Jamie Pickett. It's a little bit of a risk because it's MMA and anything can happen. This isn't boxing where you can just toy around with people when you're that much better. You can't do that in MMA. You could take a loss and it could derail your whole career. But you're going to have to show your striking at some point, I believe. When you get up to fight the top 5, top 10 guys, you're going to have to show your striking. You got to learn it at some point. You don't want to be learning on the job against, one of the top 5 fighters in the world. So I worry about that for Bo Nickel. But let's be honest, the guy's got future champ written all over him. And his wrestling, he could just use that the rest of the way. It's going to get him very far in this sport. And he gets the finish on a big card. That's the thing. Like, if this was on a card that maybe many people weren't going to watch, maybe he does do what I said and tries to work out some, stuff in the octagon. But this was a fight with a lot of eyes on it, so I think he just wanted to kind of make a statement here, get a finish, get him out of there early. And they're probably pushing him very fast, so he might think he's going to get like 2-3 more fights this year. And, because I could see him fighting in another month or 2. I don't see why not. He just finished that fight in 2 minutes. So they could be trying to push him fast. Just obviously you have to go a step up of Pickett because there's probably not too many fighters worse than him on the roster. But go, next step up, a little bit harder fight. And but just get some time in the octagon is my main thing. Get some time in. I do not care if, you should be getting these guys out of there early on in your career, but with a guy like him, I wouldn't mind seeing him go 3 rounds. Just we'll see how your gas tank is. If you can absolutely dominate somebody for 3 rounds, that's more impressive to me than submitting a guy in 3 minutes. It just is, in my opinion. But great win for Bo Nickel. The guy's going to be a future star, and it's. I'd say it's good matchmaking from the UFC to put him in there with a guy like Jamie Pickett. This other fight, Matthias Gamrot versus Jalen Turner, I actually didn't even see, but I nailed it on the head. I said that Gamrot would get a 2-1 decision, and I also said it would be a split decision. That's what happened here, but I don't know how the fight happened. So if you could put down in the comments section who you think won this fight, because anytime I see a split decision in the UFC that I did not see the fight, I don't know who won that fight because MMA judging is so bad. Boxing judging is terrible too, but MMA judging is really bad. And I see a lot of these split decisions that are like 30-27, 30-27 for the other guy, and then 29-28. I'm like, how is that even possible? But it happens a lot in MMA, so I don't know the scoring, but I know it was a split. So anytime I see a split in a fight that I didn't see, I got to go watch that fight and see who actually won. But if somebody could just put down in the comments maybe of who they think they won, if you think Jalen Turner won, because this is the only thing, I'll be pretty disappointed if Jalen Turner should have won this decision, because that would have derailed his, I think he's got a 5-6 fight winning streak going, or that would have been 6 fights. If you got a 6-fight winning streak in the UFC, you're going places. That's a game changer right there. You're only a couple fights away. I don't care who you've beat. You're only a couple fights away from a title shot if you're 6-0. So, it derails him a little bit, but Gamrot's just a better fighter than Turner, and so I don't put Turner back that far. He could still go very far. He's going to be kind of a fringe top 10, top 15 guy his whole career, I think. I don't know how high. He'll never get into the top 5 or whatever, but he's going to be in the top 10, I believe. He's that good. But Gamrot's just a really good grappler. And I didn't see this fight, but I'm assuming that's probably where the split came from. Is maybe there was a round where he had the grappling advantage, had the control. Maybe Turner landed some better punches. Because I would assume Turner's better than him on the feet. But yeah, I don't know. I'll go back and watch that fight. But let me know what you think about that decision. And I mean, the rest of this card was you had Cody Garbrandt actually had the most boring fight on the card. And a great card, Cody Garbrandt, is the one who had the fans booing, which was weird, but get the guy a break. He lost like 5 of his last 6 fights, and the guy just needed a win. They put him up against Trevin Jones. Trevin Jones should probably be cut. Him and Jamie Pickett can go find a new organization to fight for. But Cody Garbrandt did what he could to win. He actually picked up Trevin Jones and slammed him at one point. You never thought you'd see that from Cody Garbrandt, but he did. And he just controlled that fight on the feet. His striking, though, he's definitely taken a step back with his striking. His striking is not like it used to be, or it's definitely not nearly explosive as it used to be, and the speed's not there. But, did what he could. He won. There's other fights. Dreskis Du Plessis versus Derek Brunson was a very good fight. Du Plessis gets the second round corner stoppage. Corner threw the towel in with 1 second left to go in the second round. But it might have even, it says 4:59 in the second round, but I think it was at the end of the round. I think it was closer to like 5 minutes. The bell had already rung, and then they threw the towel in. But either way, Brunson took him down in the first round. He ate at Du Plessis' gas tank. Du Plessis does not have a good gas tank. He got gassed out in his last fight as well. And he was gassed after the first round in this fight. So Brunson wins the first round and tires out Du Plessis. Du Plessis gets up towards the end of the round, but he already looks tired. As soon as he gets up, he looks tired. He does win a striking exchange or two in the last minute or so of the round, but he loses the first round. Comes out in the second round, and let me tell you, he gets lucky because he lands a great low kick that just got Brunson thinking. So he got him thinking with the low kick, and then I think he hit him. It was a left hook. It was, I believe. He hit him with a clean left hook that just Brunson's eyes. I just saw it in his eyes, and at that time he was moving back. When I thought he should have been moving forward just to take advantage of the fact that Du Plessis was he was just winded. So even after he hit him with the low kick, and then 45 seconds later or so he hits him with that left hook, he still looked gassed throughout all that. And he hit Derek Brunson with more clean shots. He was hitting. I've never seen Brunson get hit with so many clean shots. And Du Plessis is a big, strong guy, but I think he was so winded he didn't have a lot behind those shots, and so he was throwing slow, but he was still cracking Brunson fairly easy. But Brunson just took too many punches. I got no problem with the corner stoppage because he did take a lot of punches, and he was kind of on queer streets towards the end of the round. But I don't think the ref was ever going to, plan on stopping the fight. And even if that was a 10-8 round, the second round, Brunson won the first round. He gets one takedown in that third round, and he would have been able to hold Du Plessis down. Du Plessis was gassed. Brunson did catch him in a few exchanges in the second round, but, Du Plessis outwilled him. Now, Du Plessis, they did say he has a problem with his nose, which I'm assuming they're saying he's got a deviated septum, but because there's a heavyweight boxer, Zheli Zhang, and he's got the same issue where he's got a deviated septum, so it looks like he's gassed throughout the fight. And he said in an interview, he said, "Everyone says I look tired during my fights. I'm not tired. I just have to breathe through my mouth, and but I'm not tired out there." I would disagree, and especially in Du Plessis' case, that guy was gassed. And he was gassed in his last fight, which he came back and won. He's gassed in his fights too, but I would be really worried. I'm kind of being critical on this guy because I thought very highly of him a couple fights ago, but I don't see him as being that great of a prospect anymore, just because of that gas tank and how easy it was for Derek Brunson to take him down in that first round. Derek Brunson's a really good fighter, and that's the one thing he has is wrestling, but he's not in his prime, and that's pretty much what got Duplessis this win. There's a saying we have in boxing because Richard Dwyer made it up. It's called knockouts cause amnesia. And that's what I'm going to look at when I think about betting Duplessis in the future. When you go down and look at his resume and you see knockout, 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 I'm going to look at this fight and just say he got the knockout, he got the stoppage, but I remember that fight and he was gassed. And against a fighter that's his age, in their prime, and especially a wrestler, they're going to be able to beat him. Somebody that's on his level that can wrestle will beat his style. Because his style, he doesn't do anything great. He doesn't have great striking. He's just very strong, in my opinion. He's a well-rounded fighter who's got far above average strength, and that's pretty much what just carries him through. But regardless, he got the TKO there. The fight before that, Amanda Ribas, she looked very good against Vivian Arroyo. She looked very good on her feet. She got taken down in the first round, and Arroyo kept her down there for a while. I actually scored the first round for Arroyo, but I think they gave all 3 rounds to Ribas. And, I bet Ribas, obviously, and I still only had her win in 29-28, but they gave her all 3 rounds. That's a big win for Ribas, and she could be a problem in that weight class. I know she had a few hiccups, but, man, I remember I think it was when she destroyed Paige Van Zandt. I thought she was, I had big plans for her in this division. But this fight was exactly what she needed. She looked really good on the feet. And she looks big, strong, and powerful up there and at that weight class with those girls. So it'll be interesting to see what she does. This next fight, this is another fight I missed, was Marc-Andre Barriault versus Julian Marquez. I wish I would have seen it, though, because I just hate Julian Marquez. The guy screwed me in so many fights, and I just can't pick that guy right. So I was happy to say that I picked the Julian Marquez fight right, and I picked against him. And it's just because in matchups like this, like usually I will take the better grappler of the two in an evenly matched fight like this. But the Marquez, the only thing I don't like about him, he gets hit too much, and he's slow. His hands are slow, his footwork is slow, and the one thing that Barriault has is his hands. So Julian Marquez doesn't do anything great, so it's not like he's a dominant wrestler. He would go take Barriault down. This fight's going to get to the ground. No, I mean, it says Barriault by standing TKO, so I don't know how that came about, but I like the guy with the above average hands here against a guy who's just slow and doesn't move his head. Now, if this would have been a grappling match, he would have destroyed Barriault because that's the one thing he can do, and he's so strong. And I remember we all had high hopes for this guy coming off the Contender Series, but he's just not that good of a fighter, I don't think. And this drops him down. This was fairly early on the prelims, and that's not a good loss to have. But that was just your definition of a crossroads fight right there, and good win for Marc-Andre Barriault. And this will be the last fight I talk about right here. Would just be Ian Gary against Keenan Song. Gary got rocked in the first round, and he almost got knocked out. He almost got finished. Song knocked him down. I can't remember what put him down, but he put him down, and it was pretty bad. And it was one of those where he gets knocked down. He kind of almost does a somersault on the ground. He stands up. He's wobbly all over the place. Song gets him up against the cage, goes to take him down, and like there was one point where Gary grabbed the cage, and it was one of those. The ref didn't call it or anything like that, but he definitely reached for that thing, and I was like, that was a desperation grab of the cage right there, and I didn't like to see that, but he did recover, and he definitely lost that first round, but he came back in the second round, and man, second round, that was the Ian Gary we all like. If you're a big Ian Gary fan, just skip that first round, go right to the second round, and that's what we all we all wanted to see from him, and his striking's just phenomenal. His ground game didn't get tested here, so like I would like to see his ground game get tested eventually, but I don't have any worries about it because he trains at KFC, Killcliff, and he's training with all those killers on there. That is a wrestling heavy. That is a wrestling heavy organization over there. So this guy's striking is absolutely phenomenal. He's got some of the best striking in the whole sport, I think, and I'm not worried about his ground game like I am Bo Nickal's striking. So I see these guys as too evenly. I see them as they're both top prospects, but I can't say if one's better than the other right now. But the one thing I will say is, like I said, you have to assume that I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that Bo Nickal's hands aren't as good as his wrestling. But Ian Gary's wrestling, I think, is better than Bo Nickal's boxing. It's just the fact that in today's MMA, that amazing wrestling base that Bo Nickal has will get you a lot further in the sport than the great striking of Ian Gary. So if you're asking me to bet on which guy would win a title first, it's going to be Bo Nickal. But that's how high I think of Ian Gary. He's on the same level as Bo Nickal, and there's not too many people I'm going to bet against him. With both Ian Gary and Bo Nickal, the UFC could do whatever they want. These guys are two top 10 fighters in their weight class. They can put them in against whoever they want. A top 10 guy, a top 15 guy. They can put them in there against a top 5 guy if they want. And I think both of them would do very well. But it's just a matter of what you want to do. They're going to try and get them a few more fights. But I hope these guys, either they fight very often against guys almost of this caliber, but obviously a little better, and just keep fighting and get wins, or they win a fight or two and then just throw them in there against at least a top 10 guy and see how they do. But I definitely have high hopes for Ian Gary. I think he's going to do very well in this sport, and he could be a future champ as well. Him, Bo Nickal, and Rakhmonov could all be future champs. So that's why I thought this card was so good. It's for the future. Those are 3 guys right there. Like I said, they could be future champs, and you had the greatest of all time to anchor the card. A lot of stuff in between. So just a great card for the UFC where there was really no other sports going on. You had the Duke North Carolina game on, but that was kind of in the beginning of the card. We didn't offer much for boxing tonight. We had Mark Magsayo versus Brandon Figueroa, which was actually a good fight. But we didn't offer up much. So the UFC nailed it here with this card. And shout out to the fighters. I hope Dana White does the right thing, and this is one of those cards where he hands out a ton of bonus checks. I really hope he gives out. This is one of those cards where he should give a bonus check to everybody who got a finish on this card. That's what he should do. Step up, do the right thing, because this is what carries your sport right here. I had some family at the fight. My brother was there, and I'm glad he got to see one of the best cards in the last couple of years, because that's what this was. And so shout out to Dana White for putting this event on, and big shout out to Jon Jones for coming back and saving the UFC heavyweight division and making it more interesting again, because to be honest, I'm not one of those guys who liked Francis Ngannou. I don't think he was that good. I understand he's got knockout power. I get it. But the guy was not that good at 37 years old. He wasn't good enough to be considered your guy's UFC heavyweight champ, in my opinion. So I'm glad he's out of the sport. I'm glad Jon Jones took his spot. And like I said, it brings life back to the heavyweight division, because it didn't have it. You sold Ngannou's his freakish stature and everything like that, and the way he looks, instead of his fighting ability. So Jon Jones and the other thing is, like, if Jon Jones, I don't see him with his body type being able to go down to 205, but 205 is kind of hurting down there too. So, man, if he could ever do that, that would be one of the most amazing things ever in sports, if he was able to go back down to 205 and win a title. But that's going to be enough on this card. Like I said, good job by all the fighters getting the wins they needed to win. And have a good night.